The Sengoku era, Japan's deadliest century. War never changes. And in Japan, it raged for over 100 brutal years. The land was drenched in blood. Alliances shattered overnight, and warlords battled endlessly for power. Today we uncover the savage tale of the Sengoku era, the deadliest century in Japan's history. The fall of the shogunate. For centuries, Japan was ruled under the shogunate, a system where the shogun, a military dictator, held real power while the emperor remained symbolic. Beneath the shogun were local lords called daimyo, ruling vast domains under a feudal system. But by the 15th century, the system collapsed. Weak shoguns couldn't control ambitious daimyo, and Japan spiraled into chaos. Rival lords clashed constantly, peasants revolted, and militant religious sects rose up. Think Game of Thrones, except it lasted over 100 seasons, and had far less optimism. The first sparks of war. The Sengoku period began in 1477 with the Onin War, an 11-year succession crisis over who would become shogun. What followed were endless uprisings, including the Kaga Rebellion, more succession wars, and eventually, China cutting off trade with Japan because of the chaos. But things were only getting started. Europe arrives with guns. In 1543, Europeans landed in Japan for the first time, bringing with them a revolutionary weapon: guns. Portuguese muskets changed warfare overnight, and one young daimyo saw their potential immediately: Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King. In the 1560s, Nobunaga began consolidating power, determined to unify Japan under his rule. Known for his ruthless brilliance, Nobunaga believed in one thing: rule the world by force of arms, and he practiced what he preached. In 1571, he annihilated a monastery that aided his enemies, slaughtering monks, women, and children alike. Soon, he began calling himself the Demon King of the Sixth Heaven, a Buddhist reference meant to terrify his rivals. And it worked. Nobunaga's charisma, military genius, and sheer brutality made him Japan's most feared warlord. But in 1582, just as he was on the verge of unifying Japan, he was betrayed by one of his own generals and killed. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the ambitious successor. After Nobunaga's death, his loyal retainer Toyotomi Hideyoshi rose to power. Unlike his master, Hideyoshi was less brutal and successfully unified Japan. But then, he made a catastrophic mistake. Believing Japan needed a new challenge, Hideyoshi invaded Korea twice. Both invasions failed miserably, draining resources and weakening his rule. When Hideyoshi died in 1598, a power vacuum reignited civil war. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the final unifier. Two factions clashed: Hideyoshi's loyalists and the forces of his former ally, Tokugawa Ieyasu. Tokugawa had been quietly building his power, and in 1600, he crushed the Toyotomi army at the Battle of Sekigahara. By 1603, Tokugawa became shogun, establishing the Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule Japan for over 250 years. The Sengoku period officially ended in 1615 after the siege of Osaka, where the last Toyotomi loyalists were wiped out and their castle burned to the ground. The Sengoku era ended, but not without cost. Countless lives were lost in over a century of relentless warfare. Still, from the chaos emerged the three great unifiers: Oda Nobunaga, the ruthless innovator; Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the ambitious builder; Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient strategist. Nobunaga, despite his Demon King reputation, also built roads and bridges, banned monopolies, and supported the arts. History is never simple. While these men brought stability, they did so through rivers of blood. In the end, Japan was unified, but at a terrible price. The Sengoku period wasn't just a chapter in Japan's history. It was a century of betrayal, ambition, and survival. And as brutal as it was, it shaped the Japan we know today.